Thank you. I want to begin by thanking C-SPAN and Brian Lamb for filming this lunch and presentation. You'd have to be a conservative author to know this, but the media world is so dominated by the political left, which can't abide two sides to a conversation, that there are really only two outlets for a conservative author that would move a book significantly up the ratings lists. And one of them is a Fox News channel, and the other is C-SPAN. You also may not know this, but Brian Lamb is a Nixon Republican. In fact, he was an operative in the Nixon White House who was sent by Nixon to try to get the PBS to observe the letter of the law that created it and be fair, objective, and balanced in current affairs programming, and failed. So he formed C-SPAN, which is funded by cable companies. That's the only way you're going to get fairness in our universe here. When I look at the debates that dominate our political landscape, I'm struck by the way in which the abuse of language plays a major role in shaping the outcomes. Defenders of liberty appear on these political battlefields as conservatives, which implies that we are defenders of the social status quo. Yet, in fact, we are the party of change and reform. We are the party that wants to stop the cancer of government power, which is rapidly eroding the freedoms that were bequeathed to us. We are the party that wants to rein in the nanny state, protect the integrity of the ballot box, remove race categories and race preferences from our institutions and laws, end the march to socialized medicine, and promote educational choice for the poorest children in our schools. It is our opponents on all of these battlegrounds who have created the increasingly collectivist and oppressive status quo. It is they who have reinserted the categories of race into our lives and into our laws and institutions, who have put half the country on the government payroll and are eager to put the other half on as well. Nonetheless, in the reigning political lexicon, it is they who are called liberals, Democrats, and progressives, even though they are none of the above. Liberals are not liberal at all. They're intolerant, bigoted, and rude, and full of hate, particularly for us. If we seek race-neutral institutions and colorblind laws, they call us racist. If we point to the threat posed by Islamic fanatics, they call us Islamophobes and bigots. The only attitudes our opponents hold that could reasonably be called liberal are the sympathies they exhibit for domestic criminals and illegal aliens, for the perpetrators of voter fraud and the denigrators of religious faith, for the thuggery of government unions and the anarchist mobs that seek to reverse election results they don't like. Like the communists before them, liberals know what's good for us and are eager to control our lives to make us better. No more big gulps or incandescent light bulbs or untaxed lemonade stands. This all reflects the reality that others are too polite to mention. Inside every liberal is a totalitarian screaming to get out. And just as liberals aren't liberal, so Democrats are not Democrats. When Democrats control the White House, they make laws by edict. When they control the Congress, they rule without advice or consent. When they lose state elections, they descend on legislatures to shut down the very process of deliberation and debate. Nor are progressives progressive, unless you think that reviving the discredited ideas of Karl Marx and Jimmy Carter is the way to the happy future. The book that Jacob Laxton and I have written, and which we call The New Leviathan, begins with the observation that Democrats and progressives are not the party of the powerless and the poor, as they claim. Among the 12 richest lawmakers in Congress, Democrats outnumber Republicans 3-1. 19 of the 20 richest zip codes in America make the lion's share of their political contributions to Democrats, some as high as 86%. Wall Street raised $100 million to elect Barack Obama in 2008. But it's not just at election time that Democrats display their financial muscle, and that's the focus of the new Leviathan. It is in the space between elections, in the battles that frame the political argument, that Democrats show their real supremacy in spending their political dollars. The new Leviathan is a name we have given to a left-wing network of billion-dollar foundations and advocacy think tanks that work in concert with government unions and grassroots radical groups and constitute the largest, most powerful political machine ever assembled. The agendas of this new Leviathan are the promotion of an ever-expanding state, an ever more intrusive state, collectivist rights over individual rights, the erosion of American sovereignty, and the undermining of our national defenses. The funding core of the left-wing Leviathan is made up of 115 tax-exempt foundations with more than $100 billion in assets. How does this compare with conservative resources? The left's foundations collectively are 10 times as large as the conservative ones. The left is all frantic about the Koch brothers and their pile of money that affects everything. The Koch brothers do have a tax-exempt foundation. Its assets are $239 million. That may sound like a lot of money, but the Ford Foundation is worth $10 billion, or 30 times as much as the Koch brothers. And of course, the Gates Foundation is 3 times as large as the Ford Foundation. How did the new Leviathan get so large? And of course, what's significant about it is not only that these are big banks and permanent banks, but they fund networks of activist organizations. So if we're talking about 115 banks, we're talking about literally thousands of left-wing organizations that they fund. The answer to the question of how they got so large is in part that they took over, that the left took over existing American foundations. The Ford Foundation is a good example. Henry Ford was not what you would call a liberal or a leftist, quite the contrary. When Henry Ford II resigned, as he did from the board of the Ford Foundation, he wrote a letter saying, complaining that the Ford Foundation had devoted its money to attacking the very system, the free enterprise, private property, capitalist system that had created the wealth in the first place. And that's only one. That's the big one, but that's only one. The MacArthur Foundation was formed from the wealth of Charles MacArthur, who is a right-wing Republican, but his children were neo-communists, and they changed the whole direction of the MacArthur Foundation, despite a fight by the board members that was lost. The Pew Trusts were created by a Philadelphia family, the Pew family, which made its wealth in oil and was extremely right-wing. But they made the mistake of appointing a surgeon whom they knew to be president, and before they knew it, the staff of the foundation, he was succeeded by Rebecca Rimmel, who is a nurse, and who announced when she took